All right. So I wanted to welcome everybody that's with us today because we have a very special guest, and all of you know how much I absolutely love and respect Dr. Christina Campbell. And she has a lot of credentials, and I don't want to miss any of them. I know her as she used to be an emergency doctor, but I'm going to let her say it. But she's a functional medicine doctor. But if you could please tell us your background and title, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an osteopathic trained physician. I've been practicing medicine for over 25 years. I just quit counting at that point because, that's enough, right? I board certified in emergency medicine. I maintain that certification, although I haven't practiced in the ER for probably been 4 years, 5 years, maybe since I picked up a last shift. Um, yeah, actually just before COVID, so it might be longer than that now. I have a telehealth functional medicine practice, so I'm certified in functional medicine as well. I switched out of the saving lives to hopefully preventing people from having to go to the ER to begin with, right? So more into a wellness space. And I just saw what was wrong in conventional medicine and so many things that can be done from a natural perspective or a lifestyle change perspective that can really improve our health, our wellness, our vitality, our ability to get up and do the things we want to do with our lives. I'm also certified in mitochondrial biophysics, and I also have a certification in endocannabinoid medicine. So um, I dive deep into my training. When I want to learn something, I go all the way down the rabbit hole, which means you may not hear from me for a few days. I'll come back up with lots of knowledge. So that's how I roll. Yeah.
And that's why I'm so excited to bring you on today, because I knew you would do that for us. And that's what I love and appreciate about you, because it is all about our wellness. It is important to put the good things in our body, because I also believe in prevention. I believe in, taking care of our bodies before we have to, correct? I feel like we
Right.
have to from the very beginning. And what I mean by that, I don't want to be told to before
Right.
something happens. So
Right.
I think this is amazing. And again, I am so grateful that you're a part of our team, our family, and most of all, taking your time out and be willing to do this with us. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, what I wanted you to do, and then I'm gonna just mute myself. I really wanted you to talk about we have four amazing products, as you know, a lot of stuff coming in the future. But I really want you to touch on a couple of products, and then maybe at another time we can touch on the others. Maybe today we can talk about our STEM Active and also our Prime, which is our nitric oxide accelerator. Would that
Yeah,
be okay?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Happy to.
Okay, I'm gonna turn
So
it over to you.
really in honesty, the four products that we do have go hand in hand, and we can talk about them in more detail conversation by conversation, and we can learn more. But today to focus on STEM Active and the Prime is a great idea because they are really synergistic formulas. And, one of the things that Jody said leading into this is, I don't want to have to do something when a doctor tells me, hey, you're really in trouble now. I want to prevent myself from getting sick or having that disease. So you make a good point, because from wellness to optimal vitality to really sick is really a continuum. And where we fall on that continuum often has to do with how many stem cells we have that are active in our bodies, what kind of repair mechanisms we have in place, how much inflammation we have, and what is our ability to get our blood flow, our circulating oxygen, but also circulating the stem cells that we produce and release to the areas that need to be repaired. So that's kind of a brush overview of how these two products work together really well. I'd like to dive kind of really deeply into the science of how the stem cell product works, if that's okay, um, because I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating that our food is medicine, right? And we've heard that phrase before. That's not a new thought, that food can be medicine, but to see the science behind it that is now accumulating hand over fist is really great. For a long time in holistic medicine, we had some we had some studies, but they weren't, large studies. They weren't great studies. And I'm seeing more and more of that coming out, especially since actually COVID, I think, was a big instigator that helped a lot more of this to start coming out into the literature, which is great. So when I think about stem cells, does everyone know what a stem cell is? Let's see how basic. Most people here, I anticipate, know what they are. But basically, stem cells are our progenitor cells. Every single cell, every organ of our body starts as a stem cell. When we are first conceived at the time of conception, when the egg and sperm come together, that is the ultimate stem cell, that first cell that's formed, then divides and divides and divides and divides. The first few divisions are what are called totipotent. So there's a few different, let's say, vocabulary words I want to just kind of establish. Totipotent just means that it is a cell that can become any cell, will become any cell, or will identify at some point as a specific cell, but right now can become anything. Pluripotent means that it's not totipotent, but it is a cell that can become just about everything, anything. That is the type of cell that we maintain as adults. We really only see the totipotent cells when we're embryos. So, and then multipotent. So these are like the different ideas. I like to think of it as an analogy of like a student, right? When you're a student, you're in high school, you're studying, you're learning things, but you have no idea what you want to be when you grow up, right? Not necessarily. Most people don't. Most people haven't figured out what is their job going to be. They don't know. You're just kind of learning a lot of things and trying to figure out what you're interested in. Then you go to college, you get a better interest, a better idea. Maybe you haven't fully specialized yet, but you're a little more specialized. So that's that difference between the stem cell that can do anything and everything versus the stem cell that is now a what we call multipotent, which means that it has only certain areas it can go down. It's kind of already partially specialized. And then you become what you become when you get out, maybe post-grad school, whatever. You become that job. You have one job in life, and that's the one you specialize in, and that is what you are. So that's kind of how our stem cells are, right? We have a stem cell that can become anything. Then it goes down a line where it is kind of dedicated to a certain area. Perfect example would be neuronal stem cells. So neuronal stem cells are not totipotent or pluripotent. They only really make the nervous system from here. So they've been identified as a stem cell for the nervous system specifically, but they can become anything and will become anything in the nervous system, but they can't become a heart cell. They can't become a liver cell. Does that make sense? So just to kind of establish some vocabulary around this, which I think will be helpful if you're conversing with high-level people, trying to bring high-level people. When I say high-level people, I mean like doctors and scientists and some more difficult areas of professionals to speak to about this. This might be helpful for you, which is why I wanted to talk about that briefly. Once we age, and you've probably heard this, and it's in some of our introductory videos, as we age, the number of stem cells that we produce reduces. Over the age of 30, our bone marrow begins to change. It actually starts changing earlier than that, and slowly changes over time. By the time we're 25 to 30 years old, our bone marrow has gone from what we call red marrow to yellow marrow. And that's just a change from a high number of stem cells to a more fatty bone marrow, as the number of stem cells that we produce and hold on to reduces over time. So once we have that, we always have stem cells circulating. No matter what our age, we have them. The numbers just reduce and the activity reduces. And perhaps if our circulation isn't great, our delivery of that to our bodies where it needs to go may reduce as well. So those are kind of the things to think about. And inside the bone marrow, I like to think about it as a seat belt. So why is it that our stem cells get stuck in our bone marrow and don't just leave all the time? How come they're not just going out into our body all the time? Why are they held there? Well, they're held there, right, for the time of injury. When we have an injury, then they get released in mass numbers to head to that area of injury in order to repair that tissue. And that's how it normally and naturally works. The area of injury actually releases, when the tissue is damaged, it releases chemicals that they call to the stem cells and they bring them to that area. So when we are talking about using food or using these supplements to increase the numbers of circulating stem cells, we have to realize that we're releasing that seatbelt. We're letting it go and letting those stem cells come out when they would normally be held back. And there's two aspects to that seatbelt, which is what I like to look at it, and it makes it easy to understand. If you think about the airline stewardess, she puts the belt, right? She'll show you that, how you put the two pieces together. Those two pieces are the CXCR4, which is the receptor. You don't have to remember the name, but it's the receptor on the stem cell that holds on to SDF1, which is stromal derived factor 1, which holds that. So that's basically the seatbelt. When you put those two together, that's the seatbelt that holds those stem cells wherever they are, which is usually in the bone marrow. So how do you get them to release? You have to either reduce the SDF1 numbers, or you have to break the receptor, or you have to interrupt that receptor so that you're opening up the seatbelt and releasing it. And that's basically what these ingredients in this formula do. So the three things that actually break that seatbelt in different ways are the blue-green algae, the sea buckthorn extract, and they do it differently, and the aloe macrolata. And the aloe macrolata, it's important that it's the macrolata. So it's that specific species of aloe. There's hundreds of species of aloe out there, but that specific one is the one that is shown to increase stem cell release. And it does that by, as I said, interrupting that, actually it's the blue-green algae. So the blue-green algae does it by interrupting that seatbelt, but by actually reducing the receptor activity. So that's how it comes out into the bone marrow. That's how we release it. But one question I keep getting over and over is, well, if we're releasing them early, releasing more than we normally would, are we then creating a deficiency in our bone marrow? Right? Do we now have less in our bone marrow? Is that a problem? And when you guys hear Dean DeGrassi talk about taking eight capsules a day sometimes when he really needs more, does that mean that he has even less stem cells in his bone marrow? And I want to just tell you no. The answer is no. So you continue to refill that well, or that, what I like to call the pot of gold. So when you release a stem cell out of the bone marrow, it actually divides and leaves one behind. So you're constantly refilling that pot of gold. So you don't have to worry if you released, there's not such thing as releasing too many. So I guess that's what I'm trying to share with you. And I think that's really important to understand, especially as a business builder here with Healthy Home, because you're going to get that question over and over. Well, if I'm taking, can I take too much? Can I release too many? Is that a thing? And the answer is no, it's not a thing. And that's the reason why, because you recreate that cell before it gets released. So one important little tidbit there. And then the other three ingredients, and I want to make sure I have notes because I want to make sure I don't forget to tell you something. The other three ingredients in the formula are goji berry, L-theanine, and coffee bean extract. And these three actually help to migrate. So they help the stem cells, once they get released into the bloodstream, they actually help them to leave the bloodstream and go into the tissues that need repair. And each one does that in a different way. Goji berries have actually been shown to decrease the stem cells in circulation by, I believe it was something like 20% within the first hour of having them out. So when you first hear that, you're like, well, wait a minute, I thought we were getting more in our bloodstream, and that should be helpful. But the reason it's doing that is it's actually helping it to get to the area where it needs repair and leave the bloodstream so that it can do its job. So does that make sense? So it's reducing stem cells in the blood circulation because it's getting them where they need to be. it's helping them to establish where they need to be. L-theanine does a million things. I love this ingredient in this particular product because it's such a beautiful molecule. It comes out of the green tea leaf specifically, but it is well known to reduce anxiety, to mitigate stress factors, specifically cortisol. And when we talk about the things that damage our bodies, that create problems, that actually reduce our stem cell numbers and reduce the stem cell activity that we do have, stress is right up at the top of that list. So is sugar. So is like the inability to reduce inflammation and oxidative stress. So you can start to see now where a lot of these ingredients become super important in improving our stem cell activity, not only that we can release more, but that we can use them well and reduce the amount that we need. So if we can reduce our inflammatory state, if we can reduce inflammation in our bodies, we reduce the damage to the stem cells that we have, and we have less to do, right? We have less repair to do. Does that make sense? Same thing with oxidation. If we can reduce our oxidative stress overall, then we can reduce the amount of damage that we have to repair with said stem cells. So this kind of becomes, it becomes a cooperative effort among all these different molecules that are in these products. And I love that there's not one repeated across the products either. Not really, I mean, tart cherry, but that's really for flavor as much as, I mean, tart cherry has a lot of really great benefits too. But aside from that, I don't see a lot of repeat across our core product lines either in ingredients, which I like. Coffee bean extract, and I like this too. And if you're like me and you're caffeine sensitive and you are slow to metabolize it, and caffeine withdrawal maybe causes you migraines, or having too much caffeine can make you feel jittery and hyper or unfocused. That happens to me. So I have to be very careful with my caffeine intake. And that actually, you can test your genetics to find out if you're one of those people or if you lean that direction. But there's only 20 milligrams of caffeine in our product. So it is a very, very minuscule amount of caffeine, not even something that would affect me like heading into bed. So it's a very small amount. And so I wanted to share that. But one of the things about coffee bean extract is it has something called chlorogenic acid in it. And this is kind of a cool molecule in the things that it can do for our stem cells. It specifically reduces inflammation, and it improves insulin resistance. So when I say to you, inflammation is a key part of disease, and we need to reduce that to reduce our burden on our bodies. This is one of those things that can do that. Like I said, when I say sugar is part of the problem, well, it's actually the sugar and insulin together that creates inflammation in the body. So this actually can help to mitigate the impact of insulin and glucose on our bodies. It also increases the what we call proliferation. It's a fancy word for it makes more. So we're making more, creating more of them. So it actually increases our ability to create stem cells and to direct them to where they need to go. So it helps with the migration piece, but it also helps to increase our numbers that we make. So that to me is a key little tidbit. That's a key ingredient. And then it also helps to reduce pro-inflammatory cytokines. So in the last, since COVID, the beginning of COVID, we talk a lot about cytokine storm, and a lot of people now know what cytokines do, and they understand that better. Before COVID, I don't think the general public really understood that as well. But cytokines are essentially pro-inflammatory molecules that are released in order to create an immune response so that you can start helping your body. But the problem is when you have too many cytokines, there's too much inflammation and there's too much chaos for your body to really respond to. So basically, this has 6 ingredients, 3 of which help to increase the stem cell release from the bone marrow, and 3 of which help to reduce inflammation, reduce reactive oxygen species, and help it to migrate the stem cells to go where they need to go to do the repairs. So 3 and 3, which I think is kind of nice. And then there's the black rice. So the black rice is kind of the outlier, but if you know anything about black rice, it used to be called forbidden rice, or I think it's still even called that. And it was reserved for royalty in the Asian countries, specifically. So you weren't allowed to eat it if you were not royalty. You could grow it, you could be the farmer and you could make it, but you weren't allowed to eat it. And you would get in quite a bit of trouble if you did, because the stores were literally reserved for royalty as an anti-aging longevity molecule. It has a lot of procyanins and polyphenols and different things that are highly antioxidant and anti-inflammatory for our bodies. So it's kind of like one big, beautiful nutrient that's in this product as well. So that kind of is a overview of the stem cell. I want to just take a minute and see if there are any questions specifically. I know I did a lot of science there, so I want to make sure that everyone kind of understood what I said. Any questions, anything that was really confusing, I'll clarify it now. Just holler, raise your hand or raise your little emoji.
This is really, really good. I took so many notes as fast as I could, and this is being recorded, so we are going to put it on the team page. But you explained it in such a way that I really understood it in my brain on how this works, which is really important, right? Because being a physician is different, but us being in the field and having to explain it to an everyday person is always not that easy. So you gave me some really good things. I love the seatbelt thing. You know,
Yeah.
I love that. What a good analogy. I also love how you explained how you can't release too many of them out of your bone marrow. That was really important. I love the 3 and 3. This was excellent. So I'm going to look back on this several times for sure, but let's see if anybody has anything in, because you covered a lot, which was good. Yeah, easy explanation, easy understood, they're saying. Okay.
So Carol
Yes.
asked specifically, is that enough caffeine? She is someone who says they can't take it because the caffeine that's in it. And on first blush, because the amount of caffeine is not on our label yet. Hopefully they'll do that. But
we did find out.
But just know, I found out specifically it's only 20 milligrams. That is not enough to create an issue with blood pressure. I really highly doubt that anyone is that. I mean, I am one of the most sensitive to caffeine that walks the face of the earth. Genetically speaking, I've been given that awesomeness from both sides of my family. And what's great about it is I can have 1 cup of coffee in the morning and I'm going all day. That's great. But there is the withdrawal factor, there is the blood pressure factor, there is the heartbeat or heart rate factor. And so any high levels of caffeine affect me that way. I will say to you, this does not. This is like a drop of Starbucks coffee. It's not a high amount. So I would encourage her to try a low dose and monitor her blood pressure for a week before and a week after. And you know, 1 capsule a day or 1 pack a day, or she could go every other day. There's a lot of different things to try with her that she could try if she was really interested in the anti-aging longevity stem cell piece of it. So I think as a person who would, if I was talking to her and she was a patient or a client, I really thought this could benefit her, I would talk a lot about how stem cells are a repair, and without them, so people of the same age, how can I say this? Okay, so people of the same age don't necessarily have this. So I'm 53 years old. Is my pancreas 53 years old? No. Is my heart? No. Is my liver? No. Why? Because we regenerate all day long. We regenerate our entire skin lining in a month. So outside of our skin, you can completely repair all of your skin in a month if you do all the right things, right? Your gut lining turns over within a week, usually. Your, I believe your liver is every 2 to 3 years. You basically replace all the cells in your liver. So you're constantly tearing down and rebuilding your body. That is how we survive. The older we get, the less mechanisms we have in place to tear down and rebuild, specifically the rebuild. And so we have to augment those things to stay, to do well long term. So with this person, I would just really stress how the anti-aging piece could really be helpful. And I would just say, look, it's only 20 milligrams. A normal cup of coffee is 200, right? Some of these energy drinks are 400. So if she's thinking in terms of energy drinks or cup of tea, cup of coffee, she's not thinking in a minuscule form, which is really what we have here. So that would be the conversation I would have with her. And maybe that would be a person I might sample. I don't do a lot of sampling because I don't believe in giving it for free. If I go to the store and I say, hey, I don't know if I like bananas, can I just try a banana and I'll pay you for it if I like it? Business doesn't work that way, nor should you, nor should I. But in a case like this, if it's someone that you really want to see them successful and you really think that if they saw it didn't affect their blood pressure, they might come on board, that might be a person I would sample. I don't sample everybody. I just don't. I lost my shirt in a company doing that, and I'll never do it again.
I agree with you. Yeah. It's good. Or if somebody's sensitive to taste, I don't mind sharing, one little pack or something like that. But yeah, I
Right.
agree. And that was a great banana analogy too. You
Right?
can't walk in and say,
No.
if I
They're
like
gonna
it,
say
I'll
no.
pay
You
for
pay
it.
for the banana. You don't like it, throw it away and move on.
Yeah.
Don't buy another one. Right? I mean,
Yep. I agree.
why should I be any different in my business?
I agree. Hey, okay, somebody else talked about, she has master, maybe mast. Do you see Evelyn's?
Is it mast cell activation syndrome?
Yes.
Yeah, so she's highly inflamed. That's what that is basically. So mast cell activation syndrome is a high histamine and cytokine release. So it's high inflammation. So anything that's going to reduce inflammation and help her repair her problem. So actually this could be very powerful for her, but I would go slow. I find that people who have mast cell activation syndrome, Lyme's disease, mold toxicity problems, what else? Breast implant illness. What else can cause those kinds of things? So usually that's related. Most of these are related to mold or Epstein-Barr. There's another one that can cause a lot of this inflammation chronically. So those kind of people, they tend to be so inflamed that anything they try that's new really alters the balance in their body. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but it can be really uncomfortable for them if they go too fast with anything. So with that type of a person, I would go very, very slow. So if that means they want to take a stem active gel pack once every other day and see how they feel, and then slowly increase it, or even once every 2 days, you're going to get benefit from it. You release up to 60% more stem cells within 2 hours of the dose. And that's maintained over, few hours. It's probably gone within, I'm not sure what the actual limit is, like when it's all the way back down to normal. And I'll have to find that out for you. But in the meantime, just knowing that it's going to increase that stem cell level and activity, at least over the first 12 hours, if not 24. These things do last, right? But you have to keep taking it to keep that momentum going. But that being said, in someone who's highly inflamed, I would go slow. They can always increase the dose if they're doing great. And any single dose is going to be helpful for them.
That's awesome.
I hope that helps.
Yes, that's really good. Did you see well, this is great. I'm highly sensitive to caffeine, and in a month, my blood pressure was actually lowered, and she's only on stem active.
That's great. That's beautiful. So do you know your numbers? What was your average beforehand and what's your average now? I'd be curious to know that. If you
That's
wouldn't mind
Lisa.
sharing. Yeah. If you don't mind sharing, throw that in the chat. That'd be great. That would help a lot of people probably too.
Yes, that's awesome. Gosh, this was great.
So let me talk a little bit then. So now that we've I just want to make sure there weren't because that was a lot of hard science and I tried to simplify it for everyone. And on another call, we can go even deeper into each single ingredient, but I just wanted to give a good overview. But once you have those circulating stem cells and you have them activated and now they're ready to go to work, you have to get them to where they need to go, right? They have to be delivered to the tissue that's damaged or the tissue that needs help. And how does it get there? It gets into the bloodstream. It gets into the arteries and it flows along with the blood to that area, which means if your circulation is poor, if your arteries aren't open, you're not going to deliver those stem cells to the area as easily. And typically in an aging situation, we tend to heal slowest in the areas furthest away from the heart. And why is that? Because those are the areas of our circulation that are blocked, that aren't working as well, right? So how do we increase the circulation? How do we allow more blood flow to all the different areas of our body? One of the major molecules that was found in the early 2000s was nitric oxide. And it was actually a Nobel Prize winning find. So this is Nobel Prize winning technology that we have in our hands here. And it's all natural, which is even better. So I want to go through in great detail every single thing that's in this Prime product. But the first thing I want to say is, having tried it, and having tried multiple nitric oxide products that are on the market, because this isn't the only one. There's several on the market. And that's something that you have to be aware of as a distributor, need to know that this isn't the only one. What I do like about this, though, is it is literally the most tasty one. It is delicious. It actually tastes a lot like those little pixie stick candies that I used to love when I was a kid and I haven't had in 30 years because, terrible for you, right? But they're delicious. It is so hard for me to not eat the whole package when it arrives on my doorstep, which of course you don't want to do because you want to consistently take it, the way you're supposed to. But it's delicious. So that's one of the things right off the bat that I noticed. It is one of the tastiest ones. What is also great about the way that we have it made in that powder that you pour on your tongue and then absorbs in your mouth before swallowing, that absorption technology, it makes it highly bioavailable, which is really great too, because sometimes if you're not absorbing it, you can't use it. You're just pooping it out, right? So this allows you to not have expensive poop, but to actually get it into your body and use it well. So I really like that. So it tastes good. People won't take things that don't taste good. So yay, it tastes good. It has in it L-citrulline. L-citrulline is a non-essential amino acid. That means it's a protein. It's an amino acid. It is a precursor that we use to make nitric oxide in our blood vessels. Our blood vessels are meant to make nitric oxide on their own, which dilates or opens up the artery. So if you think about it, if you've got a clogged sink that's full of hair, is the water going to flow through? No. So how do you unclog it? You have to open it up. You have to dilate it or make it wider. And that's what happens with our arteries. We have more blood flow when the arteries open. So that's what nitric oxide does. It dilates, it vasodilates. If you think about it, what is the first thing that we do in the emergency department for someone who complains of chest pain and seems to be having a heart attack? We give them nitroglycerin under the tongue, in the mouth, right? And why do we give it in the mouth? Because it's the most highly absorbed place to give it, in the mouth. And it opens up, it dilates the arteries because it is the precursor. It's nitrate. It's basically nitric oxide that we're giving the patient. I mean, it's a little chemical differences. If a pharmacist is on here, I know that's not perfectly correct. But it's to teach the concept, right? So nitric oxide opens up the arteries and veins so that blood can circulate better. It also, because it does that, reduces our blood pressure. Because whenever you open it up, you reduce the pressure. So when you have, if you're watering with your hose, how do you make it come out stronger? You reduce the size and you increase the pressure behind it. That increases the pressure. That's what our blood pressure is. So if the size is more constricted or the flow is less, we have a higher blood pressure because we have to have higher blood pressure to get the blood to go through. Does that make sense? So when we have nitric oxide, more nitric oxide, it opens up those vessels and allows that blood to flow through. L-citrulline is the amino acid that we use to make nitric oxide, along with nitrate. So we get the nitrate in this product from beetroot. Beetroot is very high in nitrate, and that is the precursor to nitric oxide, chemically speaking. Beetroot also has polyphenols, anthocyanins, and something called betanin, which are incredibly amazing antioxidants, each one in their own right. Beetroot is also well researched and shown to reduce and regulate or downregulate postprandial, meaning after you eat. Postprandial means after you eat. After you eat, the insulin surge and the blood sugar surge. So it reduces that impact of the food that you eat, increasing sugar and then insulin. That is part of our inflammation process. That's why sugar causes inflammation. So this helps to balance that a little bit out. So those are the big things about beetroot. Quercetin all by itself is anti-inflammatory. And the other thing I love about it, as someone who's well-versed in mitochondrial health, is it's very specifically researched and shown to increase mitochondrial function and reduces inflammation. So that's how that's working. Pine bark extract, I triple dog dare every single one of you. Please notice I jump right over the double dog dare. To get on PubMed and put in pine bark extract and COVID, pine bark extract and blood flow. Again, please do, because there are some really great studies that came out during the shutdowns on pycnogenol and pine bark extract specifically, and how it allows the blood to flow easier. So one of the major complications of this cytokine storm and of the weird clotting factors that happen with COVID is that it causes clotting, which causes heart attacks and strokes and all that kind of stuff. What they found was that pine bark extract allows the blood to flow smoother through the blood vessels, less clumpy, smoother flow, increases circulation that way, allows more oxygen to flow to the tissues. And it reduces fibrinogen, which is one of the major things that adds to clot formation. So that's all very positive. That is also something you need to know if you've got someone who's on a blood thinner, right? And not because they couldn't take this product, but because I would adjust the blood thinner. Me personally, I would adjust the blood thinner for this product. I'd be very careful with that though. And then the other thing that pine bark extract, it really does so many great things. Like I'm super excited that it's in this product. It reduces, it has, every single one of these things has reduces reactive oxygen species, meaning that it is an antioxidant. It also decreases SOD or super oxide dismutase, which you may or may not be familiar with. I look at that as the Pac-Man enzyme that basically goes through and it eats up reactive oxygen species like a Pac-Man. That's what SOD or super oxide dismutase does in my mind. And it does that by converting those oxygen species into hydrogen peroxide and oxygen, which increases oxygen deliverability and reduces that oxidative load. Does that make sense? I don't see as many heads nodding as I did a minute ago. Did I blindside you there? So it specifically increases superoxide dismutase. So it increases the Pac-Man that reduces that oxidative stress. Okay.
That was good.
Okay, good. And then it increases glutathione. So glutathione is our major detoxification chemical that's made in our liver. And we're supposed to have a lot of that to keep our toxic load down. So this actually helps to increase our glutathione levels. It also has vascular and endothelium. So the endothelium is actually the inner lining or the inner skin of our arteries and our veins. This actually has protective effects on the vasculature in the endothelium. And if you're familiar with endothelial calyx and some of that new conversation about how we actually develop atherosclerosis or blocks in the arteries that cause these big issues like stroke and heart attack, it comes down to the endothelium and this very fine layer. We have to keep it healthy. So this actually helps us to do that. Does that make sense? It reduces cytokines all by itself, pine bark extract. So it reduces that inflammation through by reducing cytokines. And it has been, so let me say this, when I talk about that Pac-Man, the SOD or SOD or superoxide dismutase, which is what that stands for, SOD deficiency. So if you look that up in PubMed, you'll find things like it's associated with ALS, which is a neurologic, degenerative neurologic condition, or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or stroke. So having appropriate levels of SOD means you're not deficient, right? So it reduces your risk of some of these neurodegenerative things. Does that make sense? So the science is all there. And from a business perspective, to those of you who are building the business here and not just wanting to know about products, if you show the research, and there's always a question about making the claim. I can make the claim all day long because I have DO after my name. Like, I get that. I get to do that. It's harder for you. However, you can pull these studies up. You can point to these studies. You can say SOD deficiency is well known to be associated with Alzheimer's, right? Dementia, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or ALS, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, stroke. It's associated with that. This increases your SOD. Therefore, it reduces your risk. It's a scientific argument. You can't argue with that. So you're not saying this is going to cure anyone. You're saying, hey, the research shows this. This is what this does, reduces your risk. So that's good information, hopefully for you, as far as how to talk about it without getting yourselves in trouble. You know, and then hawthorn berry extract has been well known forever. It's been used in traditional Chinese medicine forever for heart health, specifically heart health. It helps with reduce blood pressure all by itself. It helps to stabilize the heart rhythm. It has the ability to lower, it's been research proven to lower cholesterol. Specifically, it lowers triglycerides, which is sugar in the form of cholesterol. And it's been clinically shown or research shown to lower total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol. LDL is that bad, what we call the bad cholesterol, the one that causes more damage. So that's been shown in the research. It also is, there was a 6-month study that was done that showed that it reduced coronary artery atherosclerosis formations. So it didn't, those who were on hawthorn berry versus those who were on placebo, those on hawthorn berry had less coronary artery blockages, fewer blockages than the ones who were not over 6 months. So that was kind of interesting study. It also reduces, there was a very limited study, so I can't claim this and I wouldn't claim this, but in just having this conversation and trying to educate you guys who are already here, there's an interesting study that suggests that it may reduce premature skin aging. I don't know about you, but I like that as a little added bonus, right? Right? And it does that through the collagen degradation process. So we tend to lose collagen over as part of the aging process too. We lose how much collagen we have. That's why everything begins to sag, and it sags more the older we are because we have less collagen to hold it up. So if you think about it that way, this study suggests that hawthorn berry specifically slows down that collagen degradation, therefore could be good for our skin health. Anyway, I thought I would throw that in there because I like that. We need better studies though, so I'm not going to lie to you. We need better studies to really prove that's the case. Then there's also a really great study that shows it can be useful in the treatment of heart failure. Now, I know that's getting into the weeds as far as what you should claim publicly, but I want you to know that there is a study on hawthorn berries that shows improved heart function, specifically the pumping action, and reduced symptoms of heart failure in those who may suffer from that. So you can always print that study out and hand it to somebody. And oh, by the way, this berry happens to be in our product. I mean, you're not really breaking a rule there, right? So it's the gray area. I like maneuvering in the gray area.
But
and then there's two other things.
Careful with the words.
You have to be careful. You do. So you
Yeah,
say this research study shows that you can find it on PubMed, you guys. Just go plug in the words, you'll find it. And I encourage you to do it. I like people to go and do their own research. It's important that you do. And you know how to do it and where to find it. The glorious grayscale. That's right.
that
Okay,
was good, Lisa.
just Shisandra. Shisandra is an adaptogen. It's highly anti-inflammatory. And again, another one that's highly antioxidant. So I love that. It's known to improve sleep, specifically because it reduces the cortisol anxiety kind of pathway. So it helps you to sleep because it reduces your anxiety and improves your cortisol levels. You need those to be lower as you enter into sleep. Your cortisol should spike in the morning as part of your wake up, your brain waking up. It should not be spiking in the middle of the night. So this is helpful for that. It can reduce appetite. I don't know about you, but anything that helps me to not be hungry is great because I'm hungry enough. It's well known and used many, many years in traditional Chinese medicine for improving liver function. There's lots of studies both on animals and humans in this area, so easy to find information on that. In traditional Chinese medicine, they talk about Shisandra as improving your qi or your overall global energy. If you're familiar with the concept of qi, it's that energy that keeps the vitality in the body, keeps things flowing, and qi should flow through your body freely. So this helps with that, according to traditional Chinese medicine. I don't claim to be a specialist in that area, so, but I think it's an interesting history piece of what it's traditionally been used for. It can be neuroprotective, specifically for microglial cells. So those are very specific cells that are in the brain that help to drain the brain of what it needs to metabolized products and toxins and things like that need to be drained out of the brain, and that happens during sleep. So not only does it help you to sleep better, reduces cortisol so you can do that, but it also helps your microglia to clean the brain at night. So you can begin to see where this might be a really nice adaptogen to add to this formula. So this is really smart, whoever put this in here. And it can also improve symptoms of menopause. And that is basically that adaptogen piece. Adaptogens are a specific classification of molecules that help you to balance hormones. So all the hormones, all the things. It tends to bring things into more balance. If you're too far this way, it brings it back. If you're too far this way, it brings it into balance. So that's kind of a nice little piece. And then celery seed extract. Now, I did say I was going to go into great detail on everything in the Prime because I was asked to talk about it. So celery seed extract is the last of all of them, specifically shown in the literature to lower blood pressure all by itself. There's some thought that it may be due to calcium channel blockage. It's not really been proven in the literature, but that's some of the hypothesis around that. So if you have someone who's on a calcium channel blocker for blood pressure and they want to take this product, they need to monitor their blood pressure, right? And adjust the medication. I always adjust the medication for the natural thing because that just makes more sense. Your conventional doctors are going to be scared to say okay to natural things. So I always just tell your people they need to talk to their own doctors, but be aware that the doctor may be nervous. So you need to know to monitor your blood pressure and adjust your blood pressure medication as your blood pressure reduces using this product, assuming this is successful for you, right? Specifically, celery seed extract is also known to lower cholesterol, improve liver function. Specifically, there was a study that showed that it was liver protective in the face of Tylenol overdose. So toxins in the liver that cause damage. This was liver protective. So that's an important it's not little, big effect that it can do. Interestingly, too, it also helps with female sexual dysfunction. There's several research studies on that, which I didn't, as I was reading about this to help me do a good job for you today, I found that I didn't know that before today. So I thought that was really interesting to be aware of. Sexual dysfunction as women age tends to be significant for a lot of people. And this could be something that might be helpful, not only in allowing more blood flow to the area, which is an important piece of the puzzle, right? Both for men and for women, but also to help with that dysfunction, that hesitancy, that libido issue, things like that. So, and then it also lowers blood glucose and postprandial insulin again. So another one in here that helps to reduce inflammation by modulating that glucose and insulin, which of course, I mean, diabetes and high blood sugar are independent risk factors for heart disease, period, have been known. We've known that for many, many years. So anything that we can put in a natural product that's going to help to mitigate the blood sugar problem, along with opening up the arteries, along with lowering cholesterol, along with reducing atherosclerosis. I mean, this is what I basically just told you is in this product. This is a pretty incredible product. So now you take your stem cell product, you unlock your seatbelt, you allow more cells to come out into the bloodstream, you point them in the direction of the cellular injury, and now you take your prime and you open up your blood vessels so that it can get there to do its job. I mean, that's a match made in heaven. So when Dean says it's a 1-2 punch, that's what he's saying. That's what he's trying to say in a very short sentence. I kind of took a lot longer to say it, but I wanted you to see all of the different molecules, what each one does, how they are synergistic, how together this is a really amazing cardiovascular health product. But it does more than that when you start, right? When you start looking at all the different things it can do. So does that help everybody as far as these things go, and any questions?
Yeah, this is pretty incredible. I had a couple of people, their questions are showing, but they're texting me also. And
Okay.
we'll do this for just another couple of minutes because I want to respect your time. But what's the best time to take STEM Active and Prime? What is your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would take them both in the morning, and then I would take, depending on your blood pressure and where it is, because you want to monitor that. If you're not on medications and you have a good blood pressure, you may not need to take, a second dose of Prime. I like to take my STEM Active in the morning and then again in the evening. Sometimes I'll take a third dose. So what I've been playing with lately is taking a capsule, because I like to, I practice ketosis a lot. So when I'm in ketosis or I'm going for ketosis, I use the capsules. I'll take the capsule in the morning. I might take a gel pack in the middle of the day, which really has limited number of carbohydrates or whatever's in it. And then I'll take another capsule at night. And then I've got double dose across the day. So that's kind of a heavy dose schedule as far as the stem cells. I hear Dean talk about 8 capsules a day, so I know you can go a lot higher. But that's what I'm playing with right now personally. And then I take the Prime in the mornings. But honestly, I have very low blood pressure to begin with. So I'm kind of just playing with it. If I had high blood pressure, I would probably increase how much I was taking. You could easily take it 3 times a day.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
So with Prime, so can somebody with high blood pressure, because we don't want it to go too low either, and that's where you say people really should monitor it. So
Right.
so if somebody does have higher blood pressure, they can play with it and see maybe 1 in the afternoon, or 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon.
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah. I do the same with STEM Active, by the way. I've been playing with 3. So I do the sachet twice a day, morning and then midday, and I actually do the capsules roughly around 6 p.m. and it's working. I mean, I just love it. I
Yeah.
think the Prime, everything you did here was just incredible, and I appreciate it. That I could sit here for hours. I don't know about all of you, but this is why I wanted to bring on Dr. Campbell to really go through this, because she really helps you to understand, right? You, with all that stuff that you were talking about, like I really understand it. So
Good.
the
There's
Pac-Man thing, like all of that, it's just great.
Good. I'm so glad that's helpful. I forgot 2 things. There's 2 vitamins that are also in Prime. One is vitamin C, which is an antioxidant, as most of us know that. That's why, people take it when they get exposed to a cold or whatever. It's immune modulatory, but it also helps with collagen. So you can't have good collagen production or good collagen in your body if you don't have vitamin C. And so having vitamin C in the product is a nice add, from a collagen, from a connective tissue standpoint. And then the methyl B12 is nice. It's not a huge dose. So if you're one of those people that struggles taking high dose methyl donors, this is not a problem for you either. But it gives you just a little bit of an extra methyl donor, which helps your mitochondria to make more cellular energy. And vitamin B12 and folate, this B12 is in here, folate is not, but B12 and folate together really are what help you to create healthy red blood cells. Without those, you won't have healthy red blood cells. So again, another circulation addition to the product. So just one more thing that allows the improvement of circulation, oxygen delivery, and the ability to get these stem cells where they need to go.
That's
okay, I'm
awesome.
done.
Yeah, in fact, somebody did say, have you had anybody that was concerned about the amount of vitamin B in
Yeah.
coffee? So
yeah, so there
good.
are some people who cannot take methylated B vitamins. So genetically, if you're familiar with MTHFR and some of these other methylation deficiencies, genetically speaking, a lot of people who have autoimmune diseases and some more complicated illnesses tend to have that as part of their genetic picture. But there's also the opposite person who actually needs more of a cyano form. There's different forms of these molecules. So it's more of a cyano version of the B12, and they do better with that. This is a fairly low methylated B12 dose. So it's just enough to give you some. It's not probably high enough to really create a problem for those people who have the opposite genetics, but it will really give a little burst of energy, cellular energy, to go along with the rest of the supplements or molecules that are here.
Awesome.
Totally amazeballs.
Amazeballs. This is great.
Oh my God, Lisa, you do crack me up. Freaking love you.
I do have one last question, then I promise you we're going to let you go. I so appreciate this.
No, it's all good.
That last question we have is, somebody said, I've had complaints about the sugar in the Prime. How do you address that? She hasn't looked at the ingredients yet, but what do you think about it?
Yeah, can someone tell me how many molecules of sugar or carbohydrates are in it? Should be on the box.
I don't have my glasses.
Be on that box. Oh, you don't have your glasses.
You know what?
I didn't bring my box down to my basement office.
Oh, these are Peter's blue. Somebody look for me, please. These are Peter's blue light glasses there. So somebody can look.
So my take on it was based, I mean, I don't remember exactly what it is. So somebody please throw it in the chat for me. Each one of these gel packs or each one of these products has some carbohydrates in them, but they're really fairly low given that they're fruit-based food medicines. So you would think it would be a lot higher. They're actually not as high as I was worried about, considering the fact that I use ketosis as a regular thing in my life. I do cycling. So I cycle ketosis and then rebuilding. I will tend to have more carbohydrates when I'm in my rebuild. I don't worry about it as much then because I'm refeeding. And when I'm trying to get into ketosis, I just reduce the number of gel packs and increase the capsules. But awesome. I don't remember that Prime had a whole lot of sugar. It was 5 grams. That's not a lot.
No, that's a Stem Active has 5 carbs and 0 added sugar. Somebody didn't say anything with the Prime.
I don't think Prime has added sugar either. It has sugar from beetroot in it.
Okay.
I don't remember that they added sugar.
It's got vitamin C.
Oh, wait, Beth,
it doesn't talk about.
We
can look at it. Yeah.
You know what? I know that I pinned Steve down. I pinned the CEO down on all of this before I signed up. I have it in an email somewhere. I will put it in the comments later. I will tell you exactly how many grams, how much is from added sugar. I don't believe they added sugar to anything. I think it's all natural from the ingredients that are in there. It's fairly low.
On the box under other ingredients, the first thing listed is cane sugar.
Okay. Again, cane sugar is fairly natural and I don't remember that it was a huge amount. And I do think some of that helps with the absorption piece in the mouth, and it also helps with the flavor. But I don't remember that it was a huge amount. I had the same reaction though when I first read the box. I was like, wait a minute, how much is in here before I put it in my mouth? And I don't remember that Steve came back with a high amount, but I have it in an email from him. I will find it and I will put it in the comments below this, wherever we post this recording. So I'll make sure you guys have all of that information, and I'll also post the caffeine amount that's in the Stem Active, just so you have that written down somewhere.
Perfect. And I appreciate it. Okay, we are
Yes.
going to kiss you goodbye. This was absolutely amazing. I will have Peter post this later in the team page. Yes, give her a lot of love, you guys. This is why I'm so appreciative to have you a part of the family, Dr. Campbell, as you know how much I love you. So thank you
Well, I love
for
you too.
your time. Well,
I love
thank
you
you.
too.
Thank you, everyone. We will post this later in the team page. So thank you all so much for coming. Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.